Live from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the Total Education Show, the talk shop for teachers, parents, and administrators. Here's your host of the show, Neil Haley, the Total Tutor.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Neil Haley Show. You can check me out on Twitter at TotalTutor and neilhaley.com, and I'm excited to welcome the program from the Real Housewives of New York City, Ramona-Singer. Ramona, thanks for calling. How are you?
I'm good, Neil, and I'm very excited to see my dating experiences replayed out on Love Connection with Andy Cohen this Thursday.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. One question, then I want to get right to that. Now, can you imagine being part of the Real Housewives in New York City and how the Real Housewives brand has grown from the first time you did the show? You just have to be absolutely blown away of the success.
Actually, yeah. I mean, I knew it'd be successful the moment we started filming. I actually told production company that we're going to average 1 million viewers, and they thought I was crazy, but I was right. But I never imagined my wildest dreams that 10 years later I'd still be on the show, and it would reach such international support and be such a phenomena.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm absolutely blown away as well. And you got to think about one person, especially doing the show you're going to do with Andy Cohen, that Andy has a lot to do with of how Bravo's grown and the Housewives brand for sure.
Yeah, Andy is extremely talented, and I was very flattered, and because I respect him and enjoy him so much as a person, I said, you know what, I will do this Love Connection show, and I will jump out of my element and do something different, and I looked at it as a big adventure, because, you know what, that's what dating is. You can't look at like, oh, is this going to be the right person for me? You have to look at it as an adventure, and I figured it was good practice for my dating experiences.
So I bet you're working with when Andy told you that you're going to do this, you said, oh my gosh, Andy's going to make me blush. Andy's going to make me laugh. I just can imagine how this show is going to go, right? For our listeners that are going to tune in.
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, Andy knows me so well. I mean, there was actually, I think it was on the clip where one of my dates, Andy's like saying, was there a kiss involved to this gentleman? And he said, I'll defer to the lady. And Andy's just like, I really know what happened. I know what happened. Of course, we didn't say. But, you know, Andy he gets me. He knows me. And it was really fun doing it, I have to say. And the viewers will see me out of my element, and they'll get to see a different side of me. And I think that'll be very interesting.
Absolutely. So for the guys out there that would die to date Ramona, what are you looking for in a guy?
Well, first, on a superficial level, I like someone who's in their 50s, someone who's been married before, and because I know you know what marriage and commitment is, and someone who has children but only older, 18 and older. Because if you don't have children, you won't relate to how close I am to Avery, and I really don't want to hang out with like 10-year-olds or 6-year-olds. Been there, done that. Then on a more deeper level, someone who's warm, considerate, doesn't take himself seriously, likes to have fun, likes to laugh, embraces life, is giving, smart, doesn't have to work too hard from 8 to 8 every day because, you know, I've already done that, and just someone that can really just roll with it and just enjoy life and embrace it.
Because you saw it, Ramona, right? You saw it with the relationships you've had where, you know, you've worked maybe too much or they've worked too much, and it's just like there's no time for that intimacy, is there? If they're just constantly on the go.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because I had a date with this one gentleman, and he said, we had a very interesting conversation. He said to me, you know, Ramona, someone once asked people that were in hospice what's their greatest regrets from their life. And what they said, working too hard, not spending enough time with their family and friends. And you know what, you have to live in the moment. We can't worry about what happened yesterday or tomorrow. Live in the moment.
And living in that moment means fun. So were the guys nervous because the cameras were rolling with you, Ramona, especially with your
Well, you know, it's interesting. Yeah. The way this was done, Love Connection, is basically the cameras weren't rolling when we're on the date. But then they would every 30 minutes in the date or every hour, like say in the beginning, middle, and end, we would then have the cameras ask us what we thought about the date. So that was okay.
And what about yourself in saying, okay, did you get to choose the guys or did Andy choose them for you?
Well, Love Connection team, they picked the 3 different men. One is like, I think, a wrestler. One is a retired fireman. One is, he quit his company, and now he's pursuing sportscasting and modeling.
Oh.
So there were 3 very diverse type of gentlemen, and you'll have to see which one I connected with and how I connected. But the most interesting thing is, one of the dates, he took me, he said, I'm going to take you to this really great restaurant. You're going to really love it. It's my all-time favorite. And it was one of those chain restaurants where they serve tons of bread and salad, all you can eat. And I'm like, are you kidding me? This is like a great restaurant. But I kept my mouth shut. I was a lady. and then, I'm into my wine. So we're like, let's get a flight of different tasting wines. And he's like, well, I only like wine that tastes like grape soda. I'm like, okay. Okay.
Oh, no. And so would you say wrestler? Is it a professional wrestler or an amateur wrestler that you dated?
I think he I don't know. All I know is on this date, he was like dying for me to look at his abs, and he'd do everything to have me look at his abs. I mean, he's like, what's your favorite part of a man's body? And I go, well, the shoulders, because he wanted me to touch his abs. It was the most hysterical thing.
Oh, this is going to be great. I just could see who they picked for you. And you're like, oh, my, I'm going to hear it, especially when it airs again on July 13th on Fox at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 Central, Ramona. And just funny things. And I know you keep busy with New York, Real Housewives of New York City, don't you? You just keep on going, don't you, with all the different things happening?
Yeah, well, we're going to be filming the reunion on Wednesday, so I have to be up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and it won't be finished till 8 o'clock at night, and it's going to be a hairy day. So all 7 of us get together, and we duke it out verbally.
And it's amazing that you've stayed on the show and you've seen so many of the other women go other places or come back and stay, and you've been there. So you have that ability to understand specifically how to play it, right, and stay safe at sometimes,
well,
right?
I'm just me, and
yeah.
I'm unedited, and it does get me into trouble at times. I mean, the whole situation with Bethany, playing it all back, I was trying to hurt her because she was hurting me, but you know what? 2 wrongs don't make a right. And then it made me twisted for almost the whole season because her being angry at me affected me terribly.
And I'm sure you saw a different Bethany coming back than the one before because of the success she had after leaving Housewives while you stayed. So that's always the interesting dynamic as you talk about overworking and success and relationships, as you talked about, and what you're looking for in a guy. Well, friendship's the same thing. If things change in friends once they focus on themselves more than the relationship, right?
Yeah, this is true. And, I know one thing my friends have told me, my other friends have said that what they respect about me is that no matter how busy I'm in my life, no matter what trauma I'm going through, that I'm always there for them. And a true friend should always be there for you and always forgive you for your mistakes. Because you know what? No one's perfect, and perfect's boring. All
right, we can follow you. Where can we follow you, Ramona, for all our listeners out there want to connect with you?
On Instagram, at ramona-singer.
Awesome. Instagram's fantastic.
Instagram and Twitter, at ramona-singer.
Awesome. Well, thanks for calling. I'm going to tune in July 13th, 9 p.m. Eastern on Fox, and continue to check you out. So thanks again for calling, Ramona. Thanks for taking the time.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye. You're listening to The Neil Haley Show, and we'll be back in just a moment. Hi, everyone, and welcome to The Neil Haley Show. You can check me out on Twitter at TotalTutor and neilhaley.com, and I'm a huge fan of this guy. And I loved him on The Five. I love him on different shows. I love how he is willing to speak up and say it like it is. Tell it like it is. So I'm excited to welcome the program from Fox, Eric-Bolling, author of The Swamp, How Washington's Murky Pool of Corruption and Cronyism, and How Trump Can Drain It. Eric, thanks for calling. How are you?
Thanks for having me on. I'm doing great. I'm doing very, very well. I speak to the president quite often, and he's got his work cut out for him to drain the D.C. swamp. It's pretty murky waters there. Exactly.
And what about people that saying he is not doing that, Eric? That's the first question I'm going to draw on right now, especially with, all these, if you watch the mainstream media, you hear all the time specifically anti-Trump things. And no, he really did. He isn't draining the swamp. But from your research and what you've done, what do you disagree completely with that, right?
Well, here's the deal. So that's a common question. We'll do these interviews, and they'll say, well, why isn't he draining the swamp yet? You look, he's bringing on all these Wall Street guys, and there's 2 answers to that. Number one, the Wall Street guys, we should be thrilled that these people, these highly successful corporate CEOs, who know how to run businesses are running cabinets in our administration. We, as taxpayers and voters, we're fortunate to be able to have those types of people in working for us against a globe that wants to take us down. So I'm thrilled that those people are working for us. As far as draining the swamp, why hasn't he done it yet? Well, he is. He's starting to. Now, remember, this is 5.5 months in. He's not even 6 months into office yet, and already he does things like one of the first things he declared is, how come Air Force One and Air Force Two cost so much money? Now, have you ever heard a president ask how much something cost, especially something that was going to be for him himself?
Right.
No,
Yeah.
I haven't heard it either. So he's treating the country like he would treat a corporation, treating the Oval Office like a boardroom, and I think that's the beginning of draining the swamp. Now, he spent a whole heck of a lot of time rolling back regulation. Rolling back regulation has lit the economy on fire. It's off to the races, and I think that'll give him the political capital to come back and drain the swamp. I don't think he realized how many Republicans he was going to be fighting as swamp creatures as well as Democrats. So it's going to take some time. He's got his work cut out for him, but he's got the right ideas, and he's starting to do it now.
Does that frustrate you, Eric, that some of the Republicans aren't supporting President Trump in a way?
Yeah. I'm a conservative Republican, and I said that when I'm done with the TV career, I want to go after a lying, squishy Senate Republican who's sent to the D.C. swamp as a representative of the people and gets there and just becomes one of the swamp creatures, a squishy Republican who isn't conservative at all. I'd love to primary one of those somewhere in the South, maybe Southeast. Think about it a little bit. And get them out. That really ticks me off. We have a president who's trying to do the best for everyone, and we should get behind him on the right. The GOP should get behind the president. I'm not saying push through things like the health care plan, which I disagree with. I'm saying support the man and what he's trying to do, breaking up TPP and other trade agreements. Those are all good things for America. Look at our economy. If you have any question on what he's doing as far as regulation and the first few steps in office, check out how strong the economy is, and I'll tell you he's doing the right thing. I speak to Trump on a regular basis. A lot of what we talk about are in the book. A lot of the ideas that we talk about ended up in the book. So the swamp really does reflect some really, really qualified ideas for draining the swamp. First part of the book is mostly about what is going on there. I think you'd be just blown away if you saw some of the stories, what they're willing to do once they get there to stay there.
And you have to have the book to do it because, again, a lot of times the mainstream media will not want to talk about the accomplishments that President Trump has been able to do to roll back regulations so that specifically enough the economy can get going, that we're finally seeing this growth in the economy.
It's amazing how little people realize what's going on in D.C., how much crony capitalism is going on, and even corruption, and maybe even illegality on some occasions, and how the Congress people, when they're elected, they get to D.C. and they live by different rules and regulations than we do. They do things that we would be in jail for, tossed right in jail for, throw away the key, yet they get away with it, and it's even legal. Maybe not be ethical, but certainly legal for them. They have different standards than we do. The book, we address that in the first part of the book.
And it was interesting. I was talking to Newt a couple weeks ago that President Trump is willing to hear other people's advice. So he's not the kind of person that's like, certain people and politicians that, hey, it's my way or the highway. He is willing to listen to other advisors, other people, because he treats it like a business. So he says, hey, what do you have for me? That's the entrepreneur in him, right? And that's what we need. Right?
That's why he brought high-level business people in to work with him: Rex Tillerson, Steve Mnuchin, Gary Cohn. Those are extremely high-level corporate business people who know how to run companies. And I'm thrilled that this administration wants to run the country the way they run corporations. But that means cutting a whole lot of fat, and that's what we need to do to drain the swamp, is cut the fat.
When you have conversations about what he's done well to somebody who is not pro-Trump, either Democrat, Republican, Independent, how do you kind of sway them to see that really, to kind of explain this, that he's doing a lot of great things that just aren't coming out?
Yeah, well, look at the economy. Look no further than turn on the TV and look where the stock market is, look where the job market is, look where your home price has gone up in value, your wages are going up on a national average. Some of those numbers are on record all-time highs. So if you think that the general population cares about a Russia tweet, or do you think they care about whether or not their paycheck is bigger this week than it was a year ago? Of course, they care more about the paycheck. I mean, but no one wants to talk about that in the mainstream media. They just want to give Trump a hard time. So that said, drain the swamp. book is everywhere: Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and everywhere in bookstores.
Well, Eric, congratulations on the new deal with Fox and your different shows. So tell us also where we can watch you. 5 o'clock every day at 5 o'clock, correct? Eric, you have a show, correct, on Fox?
That's right. Every day, 5 o'clock, Fox News Specialist, and Saturday morning at 11:30, all times Eastern. You're
awesome, man, and we can follow you on social media, all different places as well, right? Correct?
At eric-bolling across the board, and eric-bolling.com for the book.
All right. Well, Eric, best of luck. Thanks for calling, and good luck with the book and all your success with Fox. So take care, man.
Thank you, pal.
All right. See you. Okay. See you. All right. See you later. Okay. Bye-bye. You're listening to the Neil Haley Show, and we'll be back in just a moment.
I'm ready.
All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Neil Haley Show. You can check me out on Twitter at TotalTutor and NeilHaley.com, and I'm excited to welcome the program country music legend Bobby Bare. Bobby, thanks for calling. How are you?
You're welcome. I'm great. Couldn't be better.
Well, fantastic, Bobby. Tell me when you got started in country music. When did you know you were going to be a country musician? Did it just come to you? Tell me a little bit about that story.
Well, it's all I ever wanted to do since I was a teenager. And so I put together a little band and played here, played there, and then I went to California when I was about 19 years old. And then I hooked up with Chet Atkins back in Nashville in '62. And we started cutting hits. And I've had several hits in Grammy. I got a Grammy Award for Detroit City at
wow.
'64. And gone on from there. And here I am, and the year 2017, still doing it.
And that's amazing. So how did it feel? Did you ever think when you were going to be in music that you would have a Grammy? I mean, that's just got to be a tremendous honor to have.
Well, to tell you the truth, when I got the Grammy in 1964, I had no idea what it was. I was just showing up because my manager asked me to, and it wasn't on television. And in 1964, the Grammy Awards had one Grammy for country music, and that was Record of the Year, and that's what I got. And the Grammy's a big deal now, and they got, probably 20 or 30 categories for country music. But back then they had one, and that's what I got. And when I got it, I didn't even know what I had.
And at that time,
it was just beginning.
And really, and thinking about it, Bobby, country music has transformed in so many ways throughout the years. So at the time when country music was much different when you were started performing than it is today, for sure.
Yeah, it was different. The mentality was the same. The record companies were going after a younger audience all the time, which made me more valuable to RCA Records because my records were way up in the pop charts, and then they came up in the country charts. So I was selling on my core was both pop and country, and it hasn't changed. They're still going for the younger audience, which is the way it has always been, because younger people buy more records, and that music is more dear to them than older people. They don't have families to worry about.
Bobby, do you think your music has evolved since the 60s in so many ways? Your singing and stuff?
You mean my personal music?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I got a lot of younger fans. All of my original fans are getting agey now. They're kids and their grandkids. I'm getting, the whole bunch. When I do shows, I do shows all over Europe, and the fans I made back in the '60s in Europe are. When they were young, are showing up now with their kids.
That's great.
And their kids, their grandchildren. So one fan has evolved into about 20 people.
Bobby, do you think you're one of the people that has helped the country music business go from, just to one genre to pop culture in a lot of ways, and the fact that you paved the way for so many artists?
Oh, yeah, I think so. I think when I started recording, I had no desire to do what everybody else is doing. I wanted something new and fresh, and to move it forward. And I know in my first 4 or 5 years in having pop country hits that there was people were kind of getting tired of rock and roll. And I don't know how many stations I went to that were changing from rock and roll to country.
Right.
And I was responsible partially for that change. And right now, I'm guessing that country, the new country radio is really popular. Now, I'm sure they have more listeners than anybody.
It's true, Bobby, because you're right. It was only specific areas of the country that listened to country music, meaning really, and it was really popular. Now it's all over the place and all over the world. And people like yourself have been able to do that. So it must have been a tremendous honor to be named one of the top 100 country music stars of all time, singers of all time. I mean, that's got to feel really good.
Oh, yeah, that was in Rolling Stone, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And,
yeah,
I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled to be a member of the Country Music Hall of Fame.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That's a big deal,
for sure.
And I have, and I love all the new singers, and they all love me too. The young people are just doing what young people do. They push the line farther and farther. That's the way it should be.
Absolutely. And you have a new album out, Things Change. Tell us a little about that.
A new album out called Things Change, and it's just an album of really great songs. That's what I do. Is I find great songs, go in the studio and record them. And I have my next record will be a song that Mary Gauthier was, I think, an excellent writer, and it's called "I Drink." And the record that I have out now is called "Things Change," and I wrote that because of my old friend Howard Axton, the actor, singer, songwriter. He used to say that. He used to say the only thing I've learned in my lifetime is a cowboy hat will blow off in a high wind. Women rule the world, and things change. And that's just about the way it goes.
Exactly. And so how long do you think you're going to perform for? Forever? Till the day you die, Bobby? You're going to perform?
Well, that's what I do. That's what I do as long as I'm healthy. Yeah, I love getting out in front of a bunch of people and having fun with them. It's I don't want to tour anymore. I don't want to go on a 6 months tour like a rock group. And I do the easy gigs. I fly into town the day before, and I do gigs, and I fly home.
And so you do have some tours still coming up. You're still touring, but not touring the way you used to, right, Bobby?
No, I'm just doing the special. Pick the special dates to do. I love to fish, so I go to Florida in the wintertime, and I'll do the Florida State Fair, and I'll do a country music cruise out of Fort Lauderdale and fish for 6 weeks. So that's how I do it.
It's a win-win, right, Bobby? You go perform and then enjoy yourself, right? So it's not like the lag.
Right. Right. You go perform, make a whole lot of money, and go back fishing.
So you love fishing then, Bobby? For your fans out there listening, you enjoy fishing?
Oh yeah, I have all my life. A lot of people in the entertainment business love fishing. My old 30-year-long fishing buddy Jerry Reed, who is passed on now. I miss him, and a lot of people love to fish.
For sure.
I think that's how some people kick drugs. They go fishing.
And it better have an addiction of fishing, right, Bobby, than other things.
Well, fishing is good for you. It takes your mind off things. You're concentrating on catching a big fish.
Would you ever write a book, Bobby, about your whole life? Have you done that or thought about ever writing a memoir?
I've been asked it several times, and I always say, when 2 more people die, I'll write a tell-all book. Now that those two people have died, I'm thinking about their children and their grandchildren. So I don't know about that tell-all book. I sure could get a lot of interest in it.
Well, you know what? The interesting thing about it, Bobby, you're cracking me up laughing, is, again, the days when you were touring, I mean, in the 60s, 70s, and on, when you've gone to town and place to place, you have some stories to tell with some of the country music singers you were with, right? For sure. That's what you're saying. You can't, because then their grandkids and all that, right?
Oh, yeah. I've got 7 grandchildren, and they're all they know is their papa is famous. So that's what they say. My papa is famous. One of them come up to me the other day and said, "Papa, I know why you got a lot of money, and I know why you're rich." And I said, "Why is that?" He said, "Because you're famous." And I said, "Okay." Kids. I know one of my grandchildren. She loves Brenda Lee because every Christmas she dances to Brenda Lee singing Christmas songs. Oh. And we were over at the Hall of Fame, and she was dying, and Brenda was going to be there. I introduced her to Brenda Lee, and and she's 11 years old, and her and Brenda Lee are the same height. You know, Brenda's only 4 foot something.
Oh yeah.
And I took a picture, and our pictures, our plaque is up on the wall in the Country Music Hall of Fame. They're up on the wall together. It's me, and then here's Brenda Lee, and on the other side is Elvis.
Oh my gosh!
And I got her picture taken with Brenda standing in front of my plaque, Brenda's and Elvis. And she's so thrilled.
Now, Bobby, so did you know Elvis well, Bobby, in your passing?
I did not know Elvis.
No, not know Elvis. By the time I got far enough along in the business, Elvis was already isolated. He was already isolated, and but we commuted back, and we were in contact. Felton Jarvis, that produced his records, was also a friend of mine, and I think he produced one of mine. But I'd get messages from Elvis, and I'd send him a message by Felton. But no, I never did meet Elvis. Still a big fan. Big Elvis fan. Always was from the very first record. Absolutely. And to be in that same Hall of Fame with Elvis has got to be just an absolute honor. It's got to be something that you cherish to know.
Oh, yeah,
the people.
Yeah, it is. Elvis is unbelievable. He's the best looking man I believe I have ever seen in my life. If he'd have kissed me on the ear, I'd have been in trouble because he's so pretty.
When he
was 18, 19 years old.
I got a quick little story. One of my staff that works for me does social media. I told her I'm interviewing you, and she's a fan of country music. And I sent her a picture, and she said to me, I mean, the latest country music. And she said to me, "You look a little bit like George Strait." He said, "You're really cute, especially in the albums back in that time." So I'll have to tell her that I said that during the interview. So you were a heartthrob, Bobby, right? Right, especially at your prime. Were you a heartthrob for fans?
Well, back when I was younger, I didn't know it, but I look at those pictures now and I think, boy, I'm hot. But it looks like George Strait now. George's a good-looking guy. Skinny little guy. His legs are not as big around as a bird.
Absolutely. And so, Bobby, exciting times for you for sure. Where's the best place we can find information on you? You have a website for people to find info on you, and
yep.
Where can we go?
BobbyBear.com.
Awesome. Bobby, great talking to you. Really enjoyed learning about you and what you're doing, and best of luck. And you're welcome to come on to tell stories another time for sure, especially about country music and the Country Music Hall of Fame. Continued success and continued keep on going and show what a great performer you are, that you want to keep performing for your fans and you love what you do. So thanks again for calling.
Thank you so much.
Take care, Bobby. See ya. Okay. Bye-bye. You're listening to the Neil Haley Show, and we'll be back in just a moment. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Neil Haley Show. You can check me out on Twitter at TotalTutor and NeilHaley.com, and I am really excited about my guest today. She is a world-renowned documentarist, HBO documentaries, but she wrote a book, a very, very interesting book, so I'm excited to welcome the program Sheila-Nevins, author of You Don't Look Your Age and Other Fairy Tales. Sheila, thanks for calling. How are you?
I'm happy to be here. How do you look your age?
I don't look my age. I mean, when I grow my beard, I look older, but when I shave my beard, I look very young still, even I'm 44, meaning I still can be people, and I tell them,
yeah. Oh my God, I could be your mother.
Yeah, so, but I mean,
no, you don't even know anything about age at 44. It's not fair. Why are some people younger than others? It's not fair. It's like some people being richer than others.
Exactly. You're so right about it. I mean, but
I think you should be older so that you could understand my plight. Why did they give me this young child?
Well, no, I understand.
You're probably not even gray yet. Are you gray?
Oh, yeah, I have a little bit of gray. Yes, and my wife told me this week, why don't you get gray? So, like, if I wear my beard or goatee, I have gray. I understand aging.
But you're really a kid. You're a kid, Neil. You're just a kid. You want to know about my book?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to know about your book.
My book is about pretty much being a woman, growing older, working in your 70s, going to sleep at 30, waking up 40 years later and you're in your 70s, and saying to yourself, wow, where have I been? What did I do? Did I really have a sick kid, and did I raise him so that he's good now? Did I really have a mother who had a horrible disease called Raynaud's? Did I really get the tail off the hamster and have my son call me a murderer because I tried to clean the cage and I was afraid to lift him because he was so disgusting? You know, did I really have gallstones that looked just like the stones outside my house in Connecticut? It looked exactly the same, that I thought maybe I was part of the universe. Was I really, having a facelift? Was I so disgusting that I was going to actually pursue youth in this artificial, superficial manner? Anyway, these are 47 actually, short stories about growing up, growing old, things you keep inside yourself, not talking about how old you are, working in your 70s, being tired earlier, and just being upfront about the short time you're here. The good, the bad, the funny, the indifferent. It's all there. And it's also a CD with very famous people who all did me a favor. I paid no one. From Meryl Streep to Martha Stewart to Gloria Steinem to Leslie Stahl to Liz Smith to Rosie O'Donnell, Kristen Baranski, RuPaul, Ellen Burstyn, Kathy Bates. I called them all. I said, please. They knew who I was. They loved me enough to do it. Whoopi read She was hard to get. Edie Falco, Tova Felcher, I mean, all these great people, Gail King, they did it. They did it
That's
for
so
me,
fantastic.
and it made me feel good about myself, and it's a great CD, and I'm selling myself cheap.
That's hey, you see that's okay, Sheila. You always had to sell the product that you were behind the scenes with HBO and other
But it's
documentary.
disgusting, isn't it? It's so horrible that you have to. I'm used to selling other people's work, and that's simple because you don't have to brag. Now I'm selling myself, and I'm in the position of being 1, old, 2, working in my 70s, and 3, I'm selling a book and a CD like a hawker, like a hooker.
No, that's how it is in selling books.
Am I embarrassing you?
No, you're not embarrassing me. Trust me. I love this because I think that when you talk about aging, don't always think about we in our 40s, especially when I turned 40. I felt it. I can't eat as much food as I used to be able to eat. I can't. I'm not able to, perform as well in certain aspects, sports, different things like that. So I know what's going to happen next.
You mean perform like sexually? What do you mean by perform?
Perform, I guess, sports. So we'll go that far,
Well,
Sheila.
Perform was either you're a magician or you're talking about nighttime.
Sports, different activities, not having the energy that I had before. That kind
You mean
of stuff.
like soccer and all that stuff?
Yeah,
You're not
basketball.
As good at 40?
No, it's good in 40.
Are you overweight?
No, not at all. No. It's the age. It starts aging. I was a former professional wrestler, so my body's pretty beat down at this age. So,
I see. So you wore yourself out before you even got into this business.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're here a short time. We're like protoplasm with muscles and bones and nerves and all that stuff, and we're upright for a short amount of time. And they knock on your door at different birthdays, and they say, "Hello, you're older." Hello, try to laugh. Hello, have a good life because it's all you've got. Hello, be good to your friends because they're all you've got. Hello, love your family.
Yeah.
In some way, they love you back even though they don't always show it. Hello, there are funny things that happen every day of your life, and there are terribly tragic things that happen. I had a friend who was dying of ovarian cancer, and she said, "Sheila, no more chemo, no more radiation.
Wow.
All I want is chocolate." So every time I visited her, I brought her a different kind of chocolate. Like sometimes I brought, Kit Kat. Sometimes I brought Godiva. Sometimes I brought a chocolate cake. Sometimes she could have lived forever because there's so many varieties of chocolate, but she didn't. And when she died and when I kissed her, she had chocolate on either side of her lip. And I took the little wet tissue that's always near a sick person's bed, and I spit on it a little bit. I didn't have to worry about hygiene anymore, and I wiped off the chocolate so she looked as beautiful as she'd always looked. But these stories in this book are like that. They're real people stories about goodbye, hello, and ha, ha, ha. And that's my book. And the CD is
fantastic,
full of wonderful, famous people who identified with some of these stories. Listen, not everybody loved me. Not everybody said yes. But a lot of great people said yes. And that's my book, and that's my CD, and I'm hawking it, I'm hooking it, I'm selling it. Isn't that horrifying?
No, it's not horrifying because it's important that you have some interesting stuff. So that's a great beach read to look back and say, okay, look at how talented you are, the success you've had in documentaries and writing, and now you are telling what your life was like throughout that time. And
but I'm not talking about my work.
No, I know, that's right. But
strange, and a lot of people have criticized me for
really?
that.
Oh.
But I feel like my work it speaks for itself.
Exactly, completely.
Like, how do you explain your work? You go to work and you have an idea and you fix the idea. How do you write that? I don't know how to write that, but I sure can tell you what it's like when your son discovers you've pulled the tail off his hamster, and he comes home from camp and he calls you a killer, says you tried to kill my hamster, Teddy. I can tell those stories because they've never been documentaries, but I never told them. So I thought, what the hell, before it's all over, I'll type them out. Oh, I don't think you use the word type anymore, do you?
No, I don't think so. But no worries. So, where's the best place we can purchase? I guess that's a good question. I guess there's so many different ways. But Sheila, where's the best place we can find information on you, purchase your book, and learn more about you? Where can we go?
Amazon. And your local bookstore. Amazon, yes. You Don't Look Your Age and Other Fairy Tales. iTunes, you can get easily the CD with all these famous people reading the stories, so you can listen to it on the CD in your car. And, you can give your local bookstore a break, right?
Yes, that's the writer in you saying that. I agree with you.
Bookstores are trying to sell books.
Oh.
Go give them the extra $2, so it won't be Amazon.
Absolutely.
But buy a book. Even if you don't buy mine, keep your bookstore alive.
See, that's great. And can we connect with you on social media? Are you on social media as well, Sheila?
Yes, I have a Twitter account. I have a Facebook account. I'm trying to keep up with them. I'm not very good at it. But I made several friends on Twitter. One woman wanted to know where I got my hair dyed, and she lived in Buffalo, and I'm meeting her for coffee next week.
How cute.
And another woman, wanted me to write something to her mother who was ill, and she turns out to be a well-known African-American singer in California. So, I'm kind of like looking at the world before it's all over. And hopefully they're looking back.
All right. Well, Sheila, thanks for calling. Best of luck. And trust me,
I'm so sorry you're so young.
I'm not. But I still age like everyone else. Trust me.
You must feel terribly guilty about being 44, and my heart goes out to you.
All right. Well, Sheila, thanks for calling, and best of luck, and congratulations on your success. All right. Take care. Thanks. Bye-bye. You're listening to the Neil Haley Show.
Welcome to the Neil Haley Show. You can check me out on Twitter at Tutor and neilhaley.com. And I'm always excited about Friday with my co-host, Coach Karen Hall. So, Coach, how are you? And thanks for calling again. Excited about our guest today, aren't you?
Yeah, Neil, it's really good to be back on the show. Had a couple of Fridays we had to take care of some business, but I'm excited to introduce our guest. He's Pittsburgh native, played at Woodland Hills football. Terrell Green, who took his talents to the University of Miami. So, Terrell, how are you today?
I'm doing well, thank God. How you doing?
Yeah, good to hear from you. How's the Queen City doing today?
It's doing good. A little bit hot down here. We've been under these storms and hot weather, pop-up storms every day. But other than that, it's great. Sunny skies and good weather and good people. Good.
Well, it's sure nice to have you on the line with us, and thanks for calling today. But, Terrell, we always like to start from not so far back, but talk to us about how football became your sport as you were a young prepster. How did you get involved in football?
Well, it's, being from Pittsburgh, everybody plays football. But for me, I love basketball, and I played it all the time. But as time, went on, instead of getting taller, I got wider. So I had to put the basketball down and pick up a football.
Okay. That was good, huh, Neil?
Yeah, that was great. And so what did someone say, hey, you should play football, or you just like playing at multiple sports?
Well, I played multiple sports. Down the street from where I lived at was a basketball court, and, that was like the daily thing. And then we would spill off and play street football. And, like I said, I always loved basketball. I grew up, a Georgetown fan, a Pitt fan.
Okay.
I love Dr. J and Charles Barkley. Those were my idols growing up. But, after I got 6'3", I didn't get any taller, but, I kept getting wider. So it just made sense.
But, you ended up at Woodland Hills High School. So the Woodland Hills that I'm familiar with Coach Novak. He produced all these football Americans like yourself that went on to play at major Division I's like yourself. So was Woodland Hills that same Woodland Hills that you played in at that time?
Yeah. I was actually the first class to go from 10th grade to 12th grade at Woodland Hills High School. And that was actually the thing that probably, got me to the place I going to the University of Miami, just simply because there were kids there trying to do something different. Where I grew up, there wasn't many kids that made it to college. I think there's only one, and that was Brian Chismar. But after that, there was very few people. But when I went to Woodland Hills, it was a different culture. Kids were going to college. They were talking about college, and, I wanted to be a part of that.
Okay.
And interesting. And you knew, was there a tradition at Woodland Hills that when you walked into this building, you knew, the players that played there and different things? Did it feel like something so special about Woodland Hills that you knew, hey, this is a definite?
Well, we started the tradition. The tradition started with us. I was like, I think I was the first kid to make it to the Big 33 from there. There was other couple of kids that went to school. But I think I'm, the first kid to do some things, And there was great athletes all around. I mean, I wasn't the first great athlete by any means. There was, the guys like Mike Lee and some of the other guys that played before me there, Hank Ramsey. They did a, great job, as I was growing up, a couple years ahead of me, but still, I think I was the first one to step out a little bit further than probably most of them did.
So you're setting a standard at Woodland Hills, and the football tradition is being built there. So talk about, because you end up going to the University of Miami, but talk about the academic piece of high school, because you were this star student athlete. Talk about the balance of the academics and the athletics and how that went for you.
Yeah, I was hoping we weren't going to talk about this, but
okay.
I was not a. Well, the beautiful thing is I was not a star student athlete, but I can definitely speak on it. I grew up at a time where they had Prop 48 and things of that nature that helped students get into school, and I was the first year after Prop 48. So in my class, if you didn't have the grades, you weren't going to school. I had a very low GPA. It was right at the 2.0 range. I won't go any more into depth with that, but I did pass my SAT. And so that allowed me to have some opportunities. And what happened was my high school counselor, Mr. Badowski, only people that could actually, get me into school was Miami and a couple other private schools because my grades were so low. And they had different requirements that they had to go off of. But Mr. Badowski, he went back to my sixth grade achievement test score, and I scored in like the 95th percentile in math at that time. And he went back there and he wrote a letter to the University of Miami and the trustees to let them know that, hey, this kid can learn. He may not be showing it right now, but he does have the potential. And that's how actually I went to the University of Miami. So, it is important to have the grades, but I had to have a whole lot of help to get there.
Interesting. And when you're in that process, of you're just trying to, academics, why weren't academics as important? Is it just basically based on the process of focusing on other things at that age, and a lot of people get into that certain way. Don't you agree, Terrell, in a way?
Can you say that one more time? I'm sorry.
No, I was trying to explain that, when you're academically, because of all these other distractions that can happen when you're a great student athlete, especially in high school, was it a challenge for you to kind of hit the books and do the other, or is it more just, you just were young and just naive at that point?
I think all those played a part into it. For me, I started out in ninth grade. I was at Swissville High School, and I had a very, very bad year. I think I even failed a couple classes. And then trying to pull that up, my grades did get better over the course of the years, but it was such a low hole that I had to dig out of that, and then there was no one really around me that went to school to encourage me. We didn't have someone saying, hey, you can go to college. It was just, it was more or less, don't live out in the streets. Do what you got to do, but don't be in the streets.
Interesting.
So when you look at that process today, when you look back, Terrell, and see how it all formed for you and it played out. So for our listeners, for someone in that same situation right now, same situation you were in, what advice would you give to them so that they cannot maybe go further, deeper down from where they are at this moment? What would you say?
Well, the thing I teach even now, I coach high school football, is I tell the kids to manage your organization. Basically manage what you can now, because if you don't manage it now, someone else is going to manage you later. So the more responsibility you take over your grades, over your life, everyone's not a great student, I get it, but if you put the time in now, then it's going to pay off somewhere down the road later. And it may be past college, it may be somewhere else, but the more good decisions you make now, the less you get to worry about making decisions when you get older, and then you're made to do something instead of have a decision to do something. So I just try to encourage them, try to work with them. In the classrooms, I go down and I hunt them down. Even our student athletes here, I hunt them down if they're messing around in class. I didn't have anybody to do that, for me at that point in time. Even my own son, I'm his worst nightmare. spend time doing what you have to do so you can be effective. Not only, in case what happens if you can't play. You have to live your life just in case. You got to put that, hey, in case I don't do it, what can I do? So there's nothing promised in this world. So just make sure that if you don't play football again or play soccer or whatever else again, that you're still able to go to college because, you put the time in. You may have to get a scholarship. You may have to get a grant, but those things are still, available to you if that's a place you want to go.
And that's great advice. And that's great advice, Terrell, because you live it and you see it, and you don't want to have that situation happen to your players, right? And you see that importance of that bond you establish with your players to be that mentor, right?
Yes. Yeah, and like I said, and I can tell them the stories. They ask me all the time, how did you do? And I'm honest with them, and I let them know I don't want you to be me. I want you to, there were schools that came in, hey, Terrell, you're a good athlete, but your grades are terrible. We can't recruit you. You don't want that. You want to be able to go where you want to go because you've worked hard and and you've earned the opportunity to be a student athlete somewhere.
So when you say that there were schools that came in to recruit you, but so did you have the experience of the recruiting process, and was it just down the end where they said, well, because of the grades? So talk about your high school, your senior year, as far as recruitment, like some of the schools that were interested in you.
Well, I went on 4 trips. I did have a recruiting process. I mean, I got a lot of as the time went on, but when they came in and looked at my grades, the interest went down. I mean, I think I had a trip scheduled for West Virginia. They called me back like the week of the trip and said, "Hey, we don't want you anymore." Pitt, because they had a massive Prop 48 situation the year before, they didn't even give me a chance because my grades were so low. Penn State didn't want me because my grades were low. But there are some schools that did take an opportunity, take chances on me. I went to Tulsa, which was a private school. I went to Miami, which is a private school. And those are the best options I had. And I think if those didn't work out, I probably would have had to go to junior college route.
That's an interesting point. And then Miami took the shot with you, and that was the biggest great thing. And especially, let's talk about going to Miami. We were talking tradition, how you established the tradition at Woodland Hills, your team. Then you go to Miami, and that experience of playing for the Hurricanes. I mean, and going and running on that field, it must have been just unbelievable.
Well, it was absolutely, the more I'm older now, I think I get more shocked by it now than I did then as an 18, 19-year-old kid. It's a different style, a different place, going from Pittsburgh to Miami, the music, the lifestyle. It just, it was a different place. And it taught me a lot of things, not only football-wise, but in the world, of just things that you can accomplish if you put your mind to it. And the one thing about University of Miami, we worked really, really hard, and it was hot, it was painful, but it was a grind. But we expected to win, and we never went to a game, believing that we were going to lose. And like I said, it was just Pittsburgh is more, 3 yards in a cloud of dust, and, football played the old-fashioned way. Miami was sort of like that, but it was like, 2.0 and with speed. So, it was definitely a great time with great people, and, I had an awesome time.
Sounds like it, sure.
So you gained All-American status at the University of Miami?
Yeah, and that's like a little. I was, and that's the other thing. I was a knucklehead then too. I didn't learn my lesson. So I got another chance to prove that I was a knucklehead, and I did it again. And it cost me a whole lot more this time than it did at Woodland Hills. But I was featured as an All-American. I think I made one All-American team afterwards, which I don't think they really view it as an All-American team. But nonetheless, it was. I was mentioned there. No doubt, could have done it. But again, I stayed in the doghouse pretty much my whole career there. But same thing, I was able to play well enough to play a lot, but I stayed pretty much in the doghouse.
Interesting. But so you were an All-American. In what year were you an All-American? So
it was '94, and I said I was preseason, and then after the year, I think there's one I've seen. The only reason why I know because they was on like one of the things I looked at on Google. It says it, but I think I made the Big East teams a couple times during my time there, but I think it was 1994.
And who was your coach at that time?
Dennis Erickson was the head coach.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm already on Wikipedia just taking a look at this really quickly. Now, you're talking about that tradition. It was established at Miami. And then we see all these 30 for 30 specials, things like that. Was it as crazy as these 30 for 30s when you talk about Miami Hurricane football?
It was crazy. It definitely was a lot of things going on. All schools are not made the same. The NCAA has rules for the majority, but when you go to a city, the life it just moves a little bit different, and it's just not the same. And I guarantee you, if somebody ever opened up the books with all the things that went on in any university, let alone Miami, you'd probably be shocked.
Yeah, but I agree with you. Every university is different. I mean, and when we're talking about football today in that way, but being the alumni, University of Las Vegas alumni, it was sort of the same way with the men's basketball, with Coach Tutor. Yeah. So, I get it. Very good point that universities are all different.
So now, going into thinking the history of this Hurricanes, Dennis Erickson was definitely a different coach than Jimmy Johnson. And there were players that played for Jimmy that ended up playing for Dennis. What did you see as the differences in what they talked about, especially playing with a guy like Warren Sapp and things like that you learned from that freshman year? Was your freshman year 94, or am I on the wrong number?
No. My freshman year was 1990.
Okay, so you're All-American in 94. Gotcha. Okay. So you're senior year. So you were able to play. So did you play the Erickson all 4 years, or did you miss Jimmy altogether?
I missed Jimmy altogether. It was Dennis's second year there when I got there. Because he went there the first year before me. They won a national championship, and now I was his second year, I believe.
I got you. Okay. So playing with guys like Warren. Yeah, go, Coach. You go.
No, please go.
No. Playing with players like Warren Sapp, what did you learn? Especially, getting All-American in your senior year. What did you learn from these unbelievable athletes from Miami playing with these guys?
Well, you didn't. The funny thing about it is the guys that we played with were, unbelievable athletes. You didn't realize how great they were until afterwards. We practiced against Ray and Warren, every day. And, I used to get cussed out for not being able to block Warren. And, come to find out, the dude's the first ballot Hall of Famer. So, I feel a little better now, knowing that, I wasn't the only one that couldn't block him on a regular basis. I mean, we had our battles. I mean, I wasn't a slouch by any means. But, Warren's a great athlete. He's a great player, a great competitor. And when you have a guy like that, and not only him, I mean, we had, I think, my senior year, our defensive line, I think there was 3 first-rounders and a very high pick in the second round, across the board. So it was a battle every day.
So
that's crazy. Yeah. Go, Coach.
No, mentally, Terrell, when you're out there against a Warren Sapp and you're getting cussed out and chewed out about not being able to tackle him, what does that do to your psyche? So when you go into the next game, are you ready to take it out on the opponent? Because you can't get this one done, but so you're going to take it out on the guy that you'll be across from on Saturday.
Well, I mean that was always the thing to take it out to the guy. I didn't have a problem with my ability, my thought process.
Right.
So like I said, I mean, I won my battles 2 against him. He wasn't undefeated. But definitely, looking back at it, he was a great athlete. But going out there, practice was definitely harder than playing in most games. I don't think there's many games that I faced that was with anybody that was as challenging as the guys, not only Warren, but, the guys that we practice against on a daily basis. So, my psyche, my